Okay, so the difference between feminine, masculine. Feminine usually has to do with being led with your emotions. Anger can sometimes be a part of being feminine when you let that anger control you. So men that constantly go off and they, you know, want to do this and that because you said something bad to them. That's an emotional state right there. Um, when a woman is, apparently her, you know, neurologically she's different, so her brain is constantly um, feeling emotions that are probably not even there. They're just part of her imagination. Um, so they get controlled by their imagination, which I'm sorry, they have their thoughts be controlled by their imagination. Their thoughts lead into this certain feelings, and now they act upon those feelings. So usually, being feminine has to do with not being able to control yourself um, in many ways. You know, a man is it's or a masculine defect that we have is um, sexual attraction to us can sometimes overpower us. Not to the point of being a graper, but to the point where we start doing things that can lead into us being controlled, and then that's when we lose control. Just like when you meet a woman, and she tells you, hey, you have to pay this, you have to do this. It's like now you're taking orders, so now you've just become something less than what you are, and that's not a man. That's not masculine at all. uh, Masculinity is not also to the other extreme, which is a person who is so stuck in their masculinity they can't show that they're wrong. They always want to be right. They constantly want to, argue. They constantly want to tell everybody what to do. That's also not, not very, how should I say, it's masculine, yes, but to an extent where you start acting kind of like an animal. That's or caveman, where you see a girl and you got to beat her over the head with a club and pull her by her hair so you can take her back to your cave. And that's a little extreme. So there's an in-between line in there that you don't have to be, when you meet a woman, you don't have to be a complete uh, how shall I say, simp, where you just giving everything out and you're paying for everything. You're throwing petals on the floor for her. That's an extreme. The other one, you don't, again, like I said, you don't have to club her over the head and drag her home. So there's definitely an in between line, and that's where you want to stay at. That's where you want to stay focused at. And if you're being controlled by your emotions, then definitely you're no longer being the man that you're supposed to be. Masculine trait is, again, controlling your emotions, whether that be anger, whether that be pride, all these other things. And I mean, if you have ego, then that's definitely one of the main things that a feminine character would be led by. Men and masculine traits is usually pride. Women or feminine are more on the ego side. That means they got to feed their ego. They got to have that attention. I gotta make this a big deal, or I have to make them feel like I feel. So it's a complete argument in their own head as to why this person doesn't feel, or why can't I make them feel what I want them to feel. And they try all kinds of manipulation, all this other stuff. So that's the feminine part of it. The masculine part of it would be more along the lines of, you have to practically uh, not have control the situation without having to do much. You know what I mean? So that in that aspect, you kind of sit back and watch. You react when you have to react at the perfect time. It's timing on that one. And also, It's understanding that what you're gonna say, and when you're gonna say it, get your point across, and that's about it, and then come back. Now, I'm just a regular guy, so I sometimes, you know, can get caught up in my emotions in, like, at home watching a video, you know, and this person triggered me. Well, that trigger is definitely an emotion that's, you know, controlling me at that moment. Because why is this video making me feel an emotion? Why is it triggering me? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself as a man. Is why are these things? Why am I reacting this way? So when you start reacting that way, then you start, you know, falling into the feminine side. There's a very thin line at times. So if you're constantly being guided by all these, you know, videos online and music, and that's what changes your mood, then you got to work on controlling your emotions as a man. Because then what's going to happen is you're going to watch a freaking Disney movie, and then all of a sudden you turn into a whiny little girl. And that's not what you want to do, especially in front of a woman. And you know, you guys are having a good moment. Let her cry. You know, just understand that you have to control your emotions to the point, not where you're, what can I say, not where you're cold and you can't, you know, express your emotions. No, it has to do with the point of, hey, I feel this, and you're going to be able to express it without crying, without getting mad, without being sad, without, you know, all that stuff. You know, that's where that comes in, that little thin line where you can express yourself without having to show any emotion. Just say what you're going to say. That's as a man. That's what we have to do. Because if not, what happens when you have a conversation with another, you know, with another man, that man might not be as emotional as you. He might be going through something bad that day. All of a sudden, he snaps, and, you know, now both of you are getting hurt over words, over an emotion that you couldn't control. So you have to understand that as a man, we have to control our emotions. Because, I mean, if as a woman, that's a whole different thing. And yes, it's a double standard. But, you know, as men, we can't worry about what's fair and unfair. You just have to be a man. And that's it. You know, it's a little bit harder for us in that aspect. Because we're not, it's not you can't show emotion, but you can tell somebody emotion. You know, you can tell somebody your emotion, but don't turn around and just cry like, you know, like a baby, and then, you know, not be able to say what you're going to say. If that's the case, then you definitely, you know, your emotions control you. So the best way to be a good man is control your emotions, and understand the difference between being feminine and being masculine. I mean, there's men that, you know, 6'6", big buff, you know, animals. They look like beasts, but all of a sudden they're so in touch with their emotions that they start to cry, and, you know, it's kind of funny and sad. Also, there's really small guys that are like probably like 5'2", that are, you know, extremely athletic, and they're, you know, really tough guys, you know, they'll go to war for you, you know. So you have to understand that everybody's different. You guys just got to find that, like I said before, a little middle ground, where you can be happy with yourself, you can control your emotions. You don't have to constantly be worried, because that, again, that's another emotion. If you're constantly worried, if you're constantly in fear, then you got to work on your emotions, because if not, your emotions will control you. And you're not a woman, and since you're not a woman, what's going to happen is somebody's going to check you, or you're going to do something really stupid. Because when men can't control their emotions, usually the extreme is violence, and then they want to hurt the whole world. And that's what you want to try to avoid, is understanding when you watch something, when you read something, if it triggers you, hone into that and try to find out where that's coming from and why you have that. It's extremely important for you as a man, because if not, you're always going to end up a loser, and you're always going to feel like a loser, even though you may not be, but you think you are, so then you act like a loser. And when you act like a loser, you end up being a loser. So, understanding how to control your emotions, how to control your imagination, that's extremely important. But I'll leave that for another time as well.